Hey, One Piece fans, this is Chris Bolts coming in with the episode recap and review of this week's episode 1132, A Pledge to Jenny. Kuma becomes a father. But before I do get into the content, do make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. All that good stuff helps me out. And if you watch this video all the way to the end, I really do appreciate your support. Now, we have to go back just a little bit because the title actually came about 5 minutes into this episode here. But we are seeing the aftermath, basically, of what has happened when Kuma decided not to go ahead and marry Jenny, and instead decided to go ahead and join the Revolutionary Army and go off and help fight against the corrupt kingdoms and government of this world, that they're in. And of course, we all know from the last episode that Jenny was kidnapped and was forced to become a wife of a celestial dragon, and that just made Kuma become very distant, very detached from everything. Right here, we're seeing that a particular area within the South Blue is completely being overwhelmed. Toomey in the South Blue, they're being overwhelmed by the kingdom's forces out there, and Kuma he's just became more and more distant. He's becoming more robotic, if you will. And he's going out and he's volunteering to go out there and help fight. Ivankov is trying to stop him from going, but that's not going to do anything because he feels that his mistake of not being able to save Jenny is what has led to his downfall, and he doesn't want that to happen to anybody else. So he's just putting himself in all kinds of dangerous situations to go ahead and help people. And so he went over there, he helped turn the tide with his paw fruit power, liberated Toomey from the rebels there. And so as he's fighting there, and he calls back to Dragon to say, we need to go ahead and get a ship. You see that 3 years of fighting has finally paid off for the Toomey forces. Kuma asked for a ship because he's just been exhausted. He's fought tooth and nail, and while he's on that call, a call comes into the revolutionary forces from Jenny, who is sailing back to her home. She has her baby Bonney in tow, and we see that she has a strange type of crystalline type disease that is just killing her. And she wanted to go ahead and get back home in time to be able to give Bonney a safe place to be. Kuma finds out, and of course, Kuma knows exactly where she went. And so she chases off after him, but Jenny tells him, please don't come see me. She doesn't want to see her, doesn't want Kuma to see her like this because she's very sick. And she knows she's dying. But she wanted to get Bonney home in time so that Bonney will be able to grow up in a very safe environment. But when Kuma finds this news out, he decides he needs to get to her as quickly as possible in order to see her one last time. We're gonna make this our screenshot right here. There we go. That's going to be the screenshot for the video. And he rushes over to her side real quick, and he says, Jenny, we'll be right there to help you. I think that's either Ivankov or Dragon saying that to her right there. But Kuma's not going to wait. Kuma takes off. And we learned something about his power right here. He can't use his instant transmission. I'm going to call it instant transmission just like it's in Dragon Ball Z. He can't use his instant transmission indoors, so he has to get outside to be able to use that instant transmission, but it's already too late because Jenny has just passed away, as you see right here. That was her last words to Kuma, was that she would always love him. And Kuma just appeared right in front, and all the villagers that stay in the village where he grew up in are already there as well, but they're telling him it's too late. And you see Kuma right there as he's looking at Bonnie. You know, maybe this might be the screenshot. Let's go ahead and take this one. Well, it'll be a surprise. Let's see here. Let me just wait a little bit. We'll just wait a little bit just so that disappears. Now we'll do it again. We want that off of there. All right. So again, going back to the video here, he sees Jenny. He's distraught, and someone tells him that she said that when she's exposed to natural light, her skin would turn blue and hard like stone. So pretty much there is no cure, at least at this point in time, there is no cure for this particular disease. And later on in the episode, we'll find out that it doesn't matter what type of light it is. It just says natural light. So that basically means sunlight, moonlight. I'm pretty sure it probably also means light from fire too. So she's doomed to a miserable existence, and everything is just killing her. So she finally passed away, and as he's crying, he notices that there's a baby there, and and of course as he's crying, there's little baby Bonnie right there. As he's crying, he realizes he should have taken her up on her offer to go ahead and marry her. But again, we all live with some type of regret, and that's Kuma's regret. Kuma's regret was that he declined to marry Bonnie, his true love, and this is the result of that regret. And now he's going to have to live with that for the rest of his life. But thankfully, Jenny, in her last desperate act as a mother, was able to save Bonnie and get her back to the town where she grew up in. And that's where Kuma decides that he needs to leave the Revolutionary Army to become a father. Time to put away childish things. That's what that Bible scripture means. You know, yeah, you're out there fighting. That's all worthwhile and everything like that. But now it's time to become a father. It's time to transform and do what is best for your daughter. And that's what Kuma decided to go ahead and do. And of course, him being a single father, he doesn't know what he's doing and everything. There are no instruction booklets on how do you become a good father or a good mother. It's just something that you got to do through experience. Of course, the townsfolk are willing to help him out, help him raise Bonnie. And of course, look how big he is. And he's got this little tiny life in his hand with this little tiny bottle, trying to put it in her little tiny mouth. But he, of course, he eventually succeeds. There's Bonnie's first official meal, and of course we know she's going to become a glutton like her mama. And one of the characters off in here mentions that she's going to become, see, I just clicked right on that. She'll grow up to be a glutton just like Jenny, which is exactly true. She is going to grow up to become a glutton just like Jenny. So of course he's a doting father. He wants to walk around and make sure she's all safe and she's all happy, like any good father would do. And of course, as she's getting older, all the townsfolk are falling in love with her cuteness. And how can you not like that nice round face of hers and with that nice little cut on her head? And we see right here that she loves to eat just like her mama. But of course, all the while, he still, while he was being a father and a pastor to the village, he still was carrying on his duties as a Revolutionary Army captain. And so right here we see that he's training with Sabo. He's participating in the war with the war effort there. And we got some nighttime light right here. And of course, as he's coming home, you're gonna see that the disease is on Bonnie's face. There you go, right there. You see that, and you see it in his eyes right there. Even though he's got a smile on his face, he notices that Bonnie has that disease on her face. He goes, just like any worrisome father, he goes around, he starts boarding everything up, doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know how to stop the sunlight from coming through. And so he starts asking doctors. They start asking doctors, is there anything that can be done for her? And one doctor, being so insensitive, being more of a scientist as opposed to a compassionate caregiver, when exposed to the sun, can we go ahead and see that? Can we go ahead and put her, let's take her outside and see. And then, of course, Kuma says, don't be ridiculous. Me right there, I'd be like, I'd take that big giant hand, I'd just like, no. But of course, that being the thing here, none of these doctors knows what's going on with her. And ultimately, Kuma makes the decision that he needs to quit being a Revolution Army captain, and he has to be with her. And of course, when he's as a Revolutionary captain, he is cold, he is callous, he doesn't care. But when he's around when he's around Bonnie, he's full of life, he's full of joy, he's full of laughter. So he'd rather choose that type of life as opposed to being the cold, indifferent warrior. And of course, Monkey D. Dragon says, go live your life and we'll ask doctors across the world for you too. And of course, Jenny now is at 5 years old. She didn't put up with any bullies at that time. And obviously that's going to go with her as she gets a little older. Being a doting father, Kuma does not want anywhere near light. Says, nah, we don't want you near light. I don't even want you joking about going near light because I don't want anything to happen to you. And you know, Bonnie, of course, says that I'm being teased and bullied because I got this jewel on my face. And by the way, that's how she gets her name, Jewelry Bonney. But Kuma says, nah, it's because they don't have it. And so they start talking about dreams of going up to what she wants to do when she gets older. And she goes, I want to travel to Sky Island just to see, so I can get closer to the sky and to the sun. And here she is talking about that with Kuma. But of course, as we're talking about that and making that noise, or rather not noise, but talking about those dreams, later at night after she's put to bed, Kuma comes out and talks with the doctor who knows a thing or two about that disease that she has. And the disease that Bonnie has is called Sapphire Scale. And again, as I mentioned earlier in the video, any kind of natural light, whether it's sunlight or moonlight, will go ahead and advance the disease. Obviously, fire does not count because we see in some of the clips or some of the scenes, Bonnie dancing in the firelight, the light from fire, and it didn't bother her, so it doesn't apply to fire light, I suppose. But at least when it comes to moonlight or sunlight, she has no chance. And that's when the doctor tells Kuma rather, that she doesn't have much longer to live. She only has about 5 years. So by age 10, she may no longer be of this earth. And that just makes Kuma go, not crazy, but it really does bother him that they were just talking about dreams of what she wants to do when she's 19 years old, when she's 20 years old. But to be told that your child is only going to have 5 years to live, any parent that hears that, any parent that has to deal with a sick child, you know how devastating it is that you got to deal with that. And it really hits, it doesn't hit close to home for me or anything, because I thank the Lord every day that my kids grew up healthy. But even now, even if I was 80 years old and my son was 50 or whatever, that's a much of a wider gap than what it really is, but I digress. Even at that point, I would still be distraught that if my kids were to die before me. We don't want that. Parents don't want that to happen in any instance. So losing a child to disease, losing them to an accident, losing them to violence, we don't ever want, losing them to drugs, we don't ever want to experience that, because we live a long life. We live for our children. We live to make them happy. We live to see that they grow up to become good, fine adults themselves. And so Kuma, he wants that for her daughter, for his daughter as well. And this is where the doctor says, I'm going to be honest with you. Your daughter has 5 years at most to live. And that's not what anybody wants to hear. And Kuma's like, can't you do anything about it? And he says, and of course the doctor says, I'm sorry, I can't do anything for you. And of course, Jewelry Bonney being the bad kid that she is, just like all of us, she was awake. She heard some of the conversation. She heard that I'll be someone say 10 years old, and that's where Kuma lies to her and says, he basically says that at 10 years old you're going to be fine. And of course that puts Kuma in a bind, because he has to find a cure in 5 years, and because you're not going to sit there and disappoint the child or anything like that. And that pretty much is no, that's not the end of the episode. It's close to the end of the episode. This is the end of the episode. 1 more year has passed. Bonnie is about 6 years old. Kuma's in his mid-30s at this point. And lo and behold, the king of Bokori is back. He's back up to his old bullshit again. And he's starting to cull the old people, the unproductive, so that he can save on his tax dollars. And of course, Kuma's not going to stand for that. And that is the end of the episode here. And then we go ahead and go to the fast forward over here to the preview for next week's episode. Kuma begins his hunt to find someone who can actually go ahead and cure that disease. And so he goes on a journey. He's got 5 now. We're at 1 year later, so he has 4 years later. And so he's going to be meeting Dr. Vegapunk for the first time. And of course, this begins the transformation of Kuma into who he is today, which is the Kuma the cyborg, Kuma the pacifist, the baseline for the pacifistas. Episode 1133, to save his daughter, Kuma the timid pacifist. So overall, this is another episode that basically fleshes out Kuma. We're getting a little bit more of what Bonnie was going through, because she's basically 12 years old. I'd give this episode 8.5 out of 10. I always like these episodes that really do advance the story and that really builds up the characters that we are dealing with. But at the same time, sometimes it gets to be a bit too much. I was talking with my son in the car about the One Piece filler episodes, and yes, there are a lot of filler episodes, but I think that is by design from Mieiichiro Oda, because he wants his entire story told, and sometimes that causes the story to drag on more than what's necessary. But at the same time, it is still good world building, real good character building and lore building. And so that's what we're getting at right here. So once again, 8.5 stars out of 10. What did you guys think of this episode? Did this live up to your expectations? Jump down in the comments and let me know what you think. And make sure to like, share, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. And if you watch this video all the way to the end, I really appreciate your support. And remember, this is Chris Boltz signing off, and I will catch you guys in the next video. You take it easy.